right, well, hey there. Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the Two-Stroke Turbo channel. Welcome back to working on old cars, old Subarus today. Not this one in particular, but the one that's gracing my lift right now is an old Subaru. It's an old Subaru Legacy wagon. You don't see these too much anymore. And why this car is on my lift and why the lights are flashing is I needed to drive it. I should give you a little backstory on this car. I've had it for a couple years. I bought it from a neighbor who was moving and he just wanted beer money for it. And I thought I could use the engine for one of my projects. Turns out I needed to drive the car because I had to rescue another car and it was rainy and cold and it sort of let me down, and that bothers me, and I gotta fix it because that's just what I do. So if you hear the whirring noise in there, don't pay no attention to this wrecked side. That's why I got the car, but I need to open the door. There's a hairdryer on the seat here, trying to dry out the, turn that off, trying to dry out the bolster because it got wet. Somebody left the window down and it rained and the car was starting to mold inside. So I'm trying to actively save what I've got, even though I don't have a lot of investment in it. I just can't let it go. So this car is, so I drove it the other night, dark night, just wanted to hop into it, threw a battery in it, hot battery, realized the wipers were completely shot, put wipers on it, drove it, started misfiring really bad. Water had gotten down into the spark plug wells and I barely made it home and it just felt terrible. The turn signal wasn't working. The ground had come disconnected. I felt very vulnerable, being it's dark and rainy and cold and about ready to snow, and I had barely any wipers, barely any engine power, and I thought, this car deserves a little bit of love. So the heater stopped working. I didn't realize there's a bleeder here on the top part of the radiator, and it was low on antifreeze, so it only heat up if you gave it revs. A lot of little things. I did check the oil before I took off in it, and I think I told you I put a hot battery. This is a battery out of a Honda Fit. It's about half the size. So I thought the whole reason that I got this car was the engine. This is a stellar engine. It's a 2.2 liter Subaru engine. These are fantastic engines. They're way better, I think, than the later model 2.5s. And this one has the dual outlet exhaust. Let's go underneath here, which is the more powerful one. Some of these had a single outlet exhaust and they didn't have as much power. So this is a good engine. Whether it's a good car or not, I'm not sure. There's still, when I pulled it out of the Briars last week, there's still lots of Briars. Oh, and it started leaking oil like crazy. I was like, what's going on? The automatic transmission cooler lines right there started, I put some clamps on them, just started pouring. And I was like, why do I have this car if I don't fix it up a little bit? So that's what I'm doing. I'm getting rid of some of the Briars. I'm gonna drive it a little bit, and someday it may make a good engine transplant, but I've got to keep what I've got. In other words, I'm maintaining my bottom feeder status here. So I put some new spark plugs in it, some spark plug wires. These two plugs had water down in the wells, and it was shorting out the connections between the high tension lead and the spark plugs. So the spark plugs were just sitting in water, and what happens is electricity will take the least path resistance. So instead of the spark going through the center of the electrode of the plug, it goes on the outside. And when you got a bad connection or a poor connection or water, it just finds its way to ground and you have a misfire. So these plugs came out. I put some new ones in it, some new wires. Seems like that's better. I fixed the turn signal so cars can see which way I'm going at nighttime. I got the wipers going. I got the transmission fluid, cooler fluid leak stopped. Oil in the engine, coolant topped up, the seat dried out. I got the heat working, and I actually compiled a whole list. I was so ticked There we go. Seatbelt light still flashes. Front tire has a wobble. Now there's more stuff to go. So I'm just kind of looking at this car. It's a 92 wagon. I did not realize it's got disc brakes in there. I thought these things had drums on the back. I'm actually impressed. Looks like we need some pads. Oh, the brakes did not work great. I ended up flushing the master, putting in new fluid, and it's just one of those days. And then I decided to go a little further. The wrecking yard down the street had a fender, a door, and a hood for a 92. These are kind of special. They have a light that comes on right here. It came with a mirror, came with a new handle, and let me show you how these lights work. See if it works on the side here. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. A lot of cars don't have that. It's not a turn signal, it's just a running light in the middle of the car. So it's a pretty nice little car. It's got dents. 250,000 miles. But it's mine. And it's fairly clean. It might make a good kid's car. The problem is it doesn't have airbags. And I really, really don't like loaning cars to friends or my kids, have my kids drive them without airbags. It's got nothing. It's 92, so it's older. So I'm trying to get the mold smell out of it. It doesn't have a cloth headliner, so that's good. But the seats had quite a bit of mold. You can see the mold spores there. It does come off rather easily, but I got to get that under control or I'm going to lose the car. And I may lose the car anyways, and it may become a body swap for something else, but for right now, it's just a good old wagon, and I'm going to drive it around a little bit and just make sure, put some gas in it. The gas that's in it is probably 5 years old. Always something. So that's what we're doing today. This is just a brief interlude between other projects. Thought you might like to see an old Subaru get resurrected, partially, maybe all the way. I don't know.